Hello everyone, today we are doing something a little bit different, a fun environment challenge. I've teamed up with another YouTube creator, Procedural Minds, to put our skills to the test. If you haven't checked out his channel yet, I highly recommend it. His explanations are super clear and to the point. You'll find a link in the description. So the challenge is that we'll both start with the same free asset pack from FAP. You can find the link below. And race again the clock to create the best environment in 3 different time slots: 5 minutes, 10 minutes and 30 minutes. But there's a twist. We can create PCG tools to speed up our workflow, but using them comes at a cost. We'll subtract half of the time that we use to create the tools from any of the challenge's total time when we plan to use these tools. So is it smarter to rely on your tools or go fully manual, placing the objects in your environment? Let's find out by starting with creating the tools and then diving into the 3 different time slots for the different environments. And at the end, we'll come together to share, compare and evaluate our creations. I plan to create 3 tools for placing and rotating objects randomly in the lab. The first tool will be to fill in an area with static meshes. The second tool will be for placing static meshes along a line. And the third tool will be for basically the same as the first one, but placing instead of static meshes decal actors. So it will allow us to do details on our level. So let's start with the area blueprint. So first let's make some space here to create the tools, and I'll start the timer. So let's start it and create a blueprint class with a type actor, call it BP area. And into this blueprint, let's create a spline. I want this spline to have all these points as a linear type, so change the type for every point from curve to linear. Let's make the area of the spline a little bit bigger, so we have a default placement of our objects and we can see that in the level easily. Let's mark the closed loop for our spline. This will create a closed spline. Let's create a PCG component, and we'll need to create a PCG graph to connect to this PCG component. So create a PCG area graph, connect it to the graph variable of our PCG component, and let's start creating the variables that we will need. We will need a mesh, a distance, a filter, a ratio, and number of rotations. And let's choose the type of the variables. We will need an integer number for the rotations, ratio and distance will be float, and our mesh will be static mesh type. Everything should be a public type, and we enter some values for the default values for our variables, so we can have a little bit easier time when using this tool. So let's edit now the PCG graph. Place the blueprint into the level so we can debug the values, so it's easier to create the graph. Start with the get spline data, then do a spline sampler. It should be a type interior for our area, and here we need to use our distance property. So get actor property, type in here the distance value and connect it to the interior sample spacing and into the border sample spacing. Make sure to check the unbounded type for the spline sampler. And let's add an attribute now, custom rotation. We'll use this attribute to randomize the rotation. So let's do a attribute noise, and for this noise we'll use the other property that we created, the number of rotations. let's connect it to the noise max. So this will be a random value between 0 and our number of rotations. And let's for this number value. So our random value is a whole number, not some decimal part. So let's now multiply by the angle that we want to rotate. So divide 360 by the number of rotations and save this value into the rotation yaw. So this is our rotation into the z-axis. I have some problem with the values, so I have the wrong name for my property. Put the number of rotations here and into this node. So this now should fix the value. So our custom rotation is a random value, then we'll round it to the closest number and we save it in the rotation yaw. So now we need to add the original rotation to this new rotation. So with the add node, add the rotation yaw to the rotation yaw of the new node to the one before the multiply. Then we'll add the attribute for the mesh property. So get our actor property of mesh and connect it to this add attribute node. Then we'll spawn a static mesh, the selector by attribute, and the attribute should be mesh. Let's connect a mesh to our blueprint to see if everything is working. There is no mesh spawned, so our output target of the add attribute should have the name mesh, and you can see now the mesh spawning into the level. So let's test the values. We can edit the distance. Now we need to do the filtering part. So we'll do a branch node. We'll create the output bit to a attribute noise, and we'll add a noise for the density. And we'll then do an attribute filter. Let's get again the variables that we created, the filter. It will control our branch node, and then the ratio, which will control our attribute filter. The value of the noise should be less or equal to this ratio to be spawned. So let's connect everything and let's test into the level. So the filter properly filters the ratio that we select, and the number of rotations seems to work as well. The distance control how closely our meshes are spawned. So let's continue with the next tool. Duplicate the blueprint and the PCG graph and add the blueprint line and PCG line names. And now let's connect the PCG line graph to the PCG component. And let's delete the points into our spline that we will not need and uncheck the close loop. Now let's edit this PCG graph for the line. We need to change the type of the sampler from interior to on spline and the mode to be distance, and we'll connect our distance variable to the distance increment. So now this line 2 should work with our wall segment. Let's test it. You can see that if we connect the wall and we change the variable types, everything seems to be working fine as we had for the area. We can extend the line and it spawns properly our wall segments. So let's continue with the next tool. It will be for the decals. So duplicate the area tool because it will be almost the same, and call it BP decal and PCG decal. Connect the PCG decal to our PCG component, and let's edit now the end of our graph. We'll not need the static mesh spawner. We'll need to spawn an actor, and the actor will be of a type decal, and we'll allow template editing. And for our template actor, I'll choose the decal from the environment pack that we chosen for this challenge. So connect it to this decal material, and let's test this into our level. Place the decal blueprint. You can see that our decal is spawned in the level. So because this decal is not with some specific shape, we can add a randomization to the position. So we can add random values for the X and Y positions and add a random scale. So it's a little bit more natural looking. Connect everything. So now I am ready with the creation of the tools I will use for the level. And you can see it took me about 9 minutes, which means that if I want to use these tools, I'll need to subtract 4.5 minutes from my time. So I will probably not use my tools for the 5-minute challenge, but I'll use them for the 10 and 30 minutes for sure. To create the actual environments, I have prepared 3 empty levels, the 5-minute, the 10 minutes, and the 30 minutes level. And I'll start with the 5 minutes. I'll not use the tools that I created because they took me 9 minutes, and if I decide to use them in this map, if I deduct half the time like we agreed with Procedural Minds, I'll need to have only 30 seconds for this challenge. So I'll be using the full 5 minutes, but not using any tools to work on this. I'll only use the Actor Palette plugin, which allows you to open a level and use this level as an actor palette to place object into your current level. So I'll open the showcase level, and also I'll open another window with the buildings prefab. So I'll use these 2 levels as a quick way of placing objects into my scene, and I'll then manipulate the objects to create some environment. So let's start with the 5-minute challenge. I will speed up this part so you don't have to watch me trying to move some objects painfully for 5 minutes. So the idea for this 5 minutes challenge was just to create a house with some yard around it. So I'm placing the house in the middle of the tiles area, and I'm surrounding it with walls. I'm giving it a little bit more room with some more tiles, and then I'll try to add some details by placing some different kind of objects around the house. I'm trying to create some details here and there, but for 5 minutes it's really hard. You can see already more than half of the time is gone. I hope that the PCG tools that I created will help me in the other challenges, but for the 5 minutes that I had here, this was everything that I managed to do. I'm placing some decals to break up a little bit the repetition. And some random objects for the bazaar area. My time has ended, and this is what I managed to do in 5 minutes. 5 minutes is not a lot of time for an environment, and as you can see, it's pretty basic, but I'm glad that at least I have something, because in the beginning I didn't know if I'll come up with anything. It's not really great, as you can see. The decals are stretching along the tree. The tree is growing from the 4 tiles for 5 minutes. I'm really happy with it. Let's save this file and I'll continue with the 10 minutes file. Let me go back to the maps and I'll open the 10 minutes file. And for the 10 minutes file, I'll be using the tools that I created. So I'll deduct 4.5 minutes from my 10 minutes. So this will leave me with 5 minutes and 30 seconds to work on this. And this will really show us how beneficial are those tools. So we can compare the level that I created in 5 minutes and this one, it will take 5 minutes 30, but I'll be using the PCG tools that I created. So we'll get a pretty good understanding of how much these tools are helping with the creation of this environment. So let's start building this environment, and it's the 10-minute environment, but after the time penalty it will be 5 minutes 30. Again, I'll speed up the creation process. Here I wanted to have a central focus on the building that's supposed to be like a temple or something like this. So I created an additional walls in the middle to enclose this area, and I wanted to make it raised, so I added a staircase with my PCG line tool. You can see that the full line of stairs is just a single PCG tool. I added some buildings to hide the empty area around the stairs, and I'm creating the floor for this raised area to place the middle building. I really wished I had more time, but after the deduction of the time for the tools, you can see I just got a basic layout and only a single minute left to add some details at the end. So I'm trying to add whatever I can here to make it a little bit more rich for the environment, but the time has ended. So as you can see, this everything that I managed to do in the 5.5 minutes. It's not that long, even with the PCG tools for creating the walls and the floor. It's again better, I believe, than the last one. There's no collision in the stairs, but maybe it's a problem of my PCG tool. So anyway, this is the environment that I managed to create. Let me check if I can fix the collision. So here, let's change this to block all, so we can export the environment. And let's try now. Okay, it seems that the problem was from my tool. So let me fix also the area tool. Change to block all as well. And now we should be able to walk everywhere. So as you can see, I wanted a little bit more focus on the central building. So we have this staircase and this gate at the front. You can go around. I wanted to have some more details here at the back. For example, some area with benches to let people pray behind the temple or something like this. But I couldn't fit everything in the time that we have. And also here at the back, maybe it will be good to have some more details here, but anyway, I believe that for the available time, this is everything I could do. Hopefully it will be enough to impress at least somebody. So you can compare this level and the level for the 5 minutes, because they both took roughly the same time. This one was 5 minutes 30, but using the PCG tools, and the 5 minutes level, which is this one, required no tools at all. So it's just a simple building with a couple of trees. So I believe there is a benefit from the tools, but they'll benefit me the most at the biggest level, which will be this 30 minutes level. So let me save everything and let's start working on the 30 minutes level. Let's set the timer. So if I deduct the 4.5 minutes from my tool creation, it will be 25 minutes and 30 seconds. Let's set this timer and let's see what I can create in this interval. For the 30-minute challenge, when I was looking at different environments so I can decide what can I create different from the ones that I have for 5 and 10 minutes, I saw a lot of pictures of Japanese houses with bamboo bridges next to them, and the river or some water was next to the house. Just the bamboo bridges were connecting the different houses, so I decided to imitate that kind of environment for these 30 minutes. So I found a water shader and ground texture in the engine content, so I believe it's fair to use them. They are not from the pack, but they are included with the Unreal Engine anyway. So I created a material for the ground and I spawned the decals with my decal tool on the ground. So the water floor can be a little bit more realistic with variations. And then I used the bamboo bridge. It's probably not a bridge from the pack, it's some kind of a storefront maybe, but I used it as a bridge, so I scaled the model a bit so I can fit the full-size character on top of it. I baked the transforms with the modeling tools and I rotated the pivot because, as you can see here, it's spawning with my tool 90 degrees offset. So that's why I rotated the pivot again with the modeling tools, and I can now spawn this kind of bamboo bridge everywhere I want with my PCG line tool. So I started creating different connected bridges, and I'm just duplicating the same blueprint with the PCG line tool in order to have some connections between the bridges. And I'm using this PCG area tool that I created to create different places where I can go connect by the bridges. I'm again using the buildings from the asset pack. I tried to create some kind of an island here, but it was not going very good, so I decided not to use this cube. And I continued with creating the walls enclosing the environment so you cannot go outside. This 30 minutes allowed me to add a lot more variation into my level. You'll see later that I'm adding different kind of floor tiles to break the repetition of the regular floor tiles that I'm using in each step of this challenge. So here I'm starting to create the building and placing various trees around to make the environment more believable, adding some details here and there, and hiding the floating islands of the buildings with these walls. So 30 minutes was again not so much time, and it was hard to create finished environment in this time, but I believe it's better than the previous time slots. So with every time slot you get better and better chance to create some more finished environment. As you can see here, I'm adding variation with some different items on the bazaar area. You can even place and rotate objects. You have enough time to decide what details to add. So the area in the end will feel a lot more richer with a lot more points of interest. You can see here I'm duplicating the whole floor and I'm using this tiles mesh just to add to the randomness of the ground. I'm extending the ground and the water planes so they're filling the full environment, and I'm adding particle systems below the trees, so you have falling leaves everywhere that you have these big trees, and I'm adding as well particle systems for the fires and a lot more details near the building so the environment can be a little bit more believable. Even outside the environment, in order to have something interesting to look at in the distance, I'm adding some buildings, some trees. So I think this adds to the realism of this environment. With about 4 minutes left, I started here, continuing to place the details with the decal tool that I created. Having these tools helps a lot, otherwise even the 30 minutes were not enough to create a detailed environment. So right now I'm rushing to finish this environment and adding more objects into the empty areas. Here I have this final building, and some statue here in this empty area just to have something a little bit different from the other places. So as you can see, it's not really enough time to have a finished environment, but it's a great start, and for 30 minutes using these PCG tools, you can see you can create a really good start for your environment. I have time to place some details on the buildings and on the floor of the river. So this is the environment I managed to do in my 30 minutes, or 25 and a half with the time penalty for using the tools. So let's review it now with the player character. So my idea was that you have these buildings connected by bridges. So I have this system of bridges between the buildings, and you can go between the buildings. And for some of the places, for example, behind this wall, you can see it's really empty. So I need to work on this a little bit more, but for a time constrained environment, I believe it's a pretty good start. As you saw, it's only a 30-minute challenge, and this is the environment that I must manage to do. It feels a lot bigger when you try to run around it. Because of the bridges, I believe. You get lost a little bit, and it seems a lot bigger than it actually is. You can see here we have a bazaar and some details on the ground like fallen leaves, the difference in the tiles. Everything that we are able to add with the bonus time adds a little bit to the realism of this scene. I had time to add these lights on the building. For the other two environments, I was not able to add any of these additional details. You can see that we have falling leaves system here near the trees in the water. You can see the leaves are falling from the trees, so everything brings a little bit to the feeling of the environment. There are, of course, problems like this gap in the wall, but everything can be fixed very easily with a couple of more minutes. So this is my 30 minutes environment. I'll save this level as well, and I'll be heading into a call to share the different environments that I created and to see the environments that Procedural Minds created, so we can check the environments of the other person and see what kind of ideas they had and how they executed it. So stay back to see all of his environments, and I hope we both did well and that we will be happy with our result.
I won't say anything at the beginning, so you have a good
Okay.
experience the 5 minutes for yourself.
Oh, I was expecting more, but after knowing that you didn't use the prefab buildings, it really is very impressive for me, because
Yeah,
I was not able to do even a single building if I didn't use the prefabs.
yeah. I did no prefabs, so everything was right manually placed in. And if you notice, the roof isn't actually even aligned properly.
Ah, really?
It's actually just sticking out the back
I
because
yeah.
I didn't have time to check anything.
Yeah, well, 5 minutes is a really, really small interval, so it's understandable. You even have these lights here.
Yeah, I started putting them in, and then the timer went off.
Without using the prefabs, I'm sure I wasn't able to do a single building. So really, really impressed. Let me check
I spent way.
your.
Yeah, I did too many floor tiles.
I want to see if they're all. Oh, you have multiple rotations. I wanted to do that, but I
Oh, I
didn't.
don't.
I didn't
No,
have time.
that's all the same rotation.
Ah, okay.
It's just Unreal doing decimal point erroring.
Maybe these ones, these top
Yeah,
ones.
if you selected those,
Yeah,
then
yeah.
right. Yeah, they're all the same rotation. In that little amount of time, no way.
Yeah, I didn't manage to do randomization in the 5 minutes level. I used my tools that I created for the next ones, so that's why I wanted to see if you used any tool, but seems like you.
No, there was no time to make a tool in 5 minutes and make an environment.
Yeah, for me as well. And I'm not sure if I understood the rules that we agreed correctly, but I made the tools separately, recorded this, and then just deducted half the time. So it took me 9 minutes for the tools, and for the 10 minutes, the 10-minute environment, I created it in 5 minutes and a half because I deducted 4.5 minutes for the tools creation.
So the tools were supposed to be part of the time originally,
well,
but that's fine.
I changed it a little bit, I guess.
It's fine. Yeah, so like when I made the tools in one of the parts, and that was just part of the timing. And if I wanted to reuse it in another one, I could then reuse it for half the time instead of remaking the full tool.
I see.
That
I
was the way I
understand
went
now.
by.
It makes a little bit
Yeah, because
more sense
otherwise
that
you
way.
have a lot more time than 5 minutes, right? To if you make a tool in 3 minutes, you have like a lot of power. So
Yeah. Uh, well, when you check out mine, I'll explain a bit the tools that I have, and they really help me a lot for sure.
oh yeah, I can imagine.
But yeah, other than the roof not being centered, it's really impressive to do this without the prefabs. So
Yeah, no prefabs, no nothing. Basic level.
yeah, uh, I guess maybe half of the time was creating these 4 tiles because
No, it didn't take that long, thankfully, because you take it, duplicate it, grab the duplicated all together, right? It just multiplies by 2, multiplies by 2, multiplies by 2. So it's not that much, but yeah, I spent too long on that anyway. But if you change the snapping to 500, it's perfect snapping because the size of it is 500.
oh yeah,
So you can easily snap it all together in place super quick and easy.
yeah, I believe I do this in the next video, so I didn't figure that out in the first one because I didn't have time to think about it.
Yeah, the first thing I did was like Control E, open the tile, check the info of the size. What's the size of it?
Yeah,
Then go.
that's
So that's why it ended up being as big as it is.
Well, I tried to use as well from the quick tips of the official Unreal Engine channel. They have a lot of nice tips how to speed up your workflow, but if you're not used to them, they just end up costing more time. For example, if you hold
Yeah, of course.
Control Alt and you drag, you can select a lot of objects that way,
Yep.
but you
also got to be careful not to. I do actually do that in the second environment for one of the sections, but you have to be aware when you do that. You also select the skybox behind it, which you need to make sure to deselect.
yeah, and sometimes it doesn't select what you don't see. For example, here I don't select this at the back, and this can be a problem as well. So yeah, it sometimes cost me more to try to use this than not. But yeah, really,
all good.
I believe it's really impressive for manually creating everything in 5 minutes.
Absolutely. Okay. Want to load up my 10 minutes?
Yeah. Oh, you have this bazaar area with a central statue. This entrance. It is more of a complete environment layout than the 5 minutes because you had a building.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I learned from the 5 minutes that I should probably not do a building in the 10 minute. I also then decided that I don't have time to create any tools in the inside 10 minutes and then use them. So I decided to still not have any tools in this environment. So this is still pure layout and chaos. But this one, I started to actually start implement some lighting changes and make it a little more
Oh, even
interesting.
lighting changes. I didn't notice that because I completely didn't have time for any changes on the actual lighting or anything like this. I just used the default one from the project. So yeah, it really is different now that you see it. It's like a more of an evening light,
Mm-hmm.
golden
Yeah, I
hour.
wanted to go for a little more moody environment, get some shadows in there
Yeah,
because I don't have much in the environment itself. So I want to get something to, just break things up, make it not seem as samey just with using the light.
it, it's for sure having more of a story looking at it than the first one. It was really a great idea not to do a building if you're not using any tools or prefabs in the 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's just figured, okay, what can we throw in that's faster? And you can see a lot of these benches have something. Also, if you look, yeah, if you move that back to where it was, if you look, it actually is sticking out because I made the other one behind it first. And if you look at the one behind it,
Behind it,
it doesn't look sticking out because the area that sticks out
it
is behind next to the wall, so I didn't notice it. So I placed it, rotated it, and then just didn't look at it.
yeah,
And I didn't have time to go back and like check these things. It's 10 minutes.
yeah, for
So,
sure.
well, that's what I got.
And uh, I like this pack, this environment set a lot from the creator on FAP. But one thing I didn't like is this holes in the walls.
Yeah, I commented that on that too. There's no endpoint. There's nothing in the pack that would really nicely just fit there to end
Yeah,
it.
so it's
So
really hard to hide this in this small time slot. I try to use these columns with the snake around them to hide this, but if you just look really close, you can see that there's a gap.
yeah,
And now that I look at it, it's even more strange to me because does this have a two-sided material? Why it's not empty on one of the sides? If it's two-sided material,
probably. I never checked. This is all default.
the parent probably. I need to check.
Yeah, two-sided on.
Yeah, two-sided.
It's right there.
Yeah, so it would be better if it has an endpoint and it's not two-sided, maybe. But yeah, otherwise this environment pack is really great. And one thing I also saw, if you because I added into my levels the third-person character, so I can walk around the environments. When you look at them, if you hit the play button, you can walk around. And these corner pieces, they have their bounding box, not bounding box, but the collision box. It's just a triangle. So if you use these corner pieces, you cannot go into the
Oh,
corner
really?
area. So I learned that in testing the
Mm.
parts of the pack. So I didn't use these corner pieces anywhere after this in my environment, just to not have this problem. I just
Yeah, I didn't
cop.
plan for actual movement or collisions. I just made an environment, so
Yeah,
I didn't know about that. It's good to know.
but it's a really easy fix. You can just create two
Yeah, just
boxes for this, and it will be great.
exactly.
Yep. I really like that you have different styles of environment for each level. I tried to do this as well. Should I go with
Okay, cool.
the 30 minutes?
Yeah, load up the 30-minute one.
Oh, you have tools right here. PCG4 and props. I'll check them. Oh, you changed the lighting again. Nice.
Yeah, this environment is definitely meant to be seen kind of from that angle in front of the gates.
And you have a real light here, as I can see.
Yep, this environment, since I have full 30 minutes, I definitely threw in lights, volumetrics, and actually try to make it seem like a proper like environment that you'd want to light it and everything.
And you
So
created
that's
this
why if you
building
look at
as
it from
well?
the front, yeah, buildings in, I use them as kind of corner pieces instead of the actual building,
Nice.
which you can kind of to break up the walls.
Yeah, this is a great idea. Especially with the problematic walls.
Yes.
Well, this for sure is really impressive. This is like a finished environment. Maybe if you have a game or something like this, it will be bigger, but for sure, this can be a finished part of the environment. Because you have
I don't
whites,
think it'll be
you have.
finished. But yeah, I tried to throw in lights. So if you look at it from in front of the gates and like look at the entire environment and look up, like so you see the trees.
Yep, right.
See, if you move yourself to the right a little, there's an angle where you start seeing all the god rays go through the trees, and you start seeing there.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
that's kind of like
yeah.
you start getting all the lighting effects.
Yeah.
What kind of fights me right now in this environment that I forgot to turn off is I forgot to turn off the auto exposure. And the auto exposure, once you get inside of it, kind of kills me, which is why it starts getting like a really gray in some areas because the auto exposure is kind of messing with the lighting.
Is it in a post-process volume or not?
You could if you go on the top left and you change lit to instead of game mode, you can do you could change it, turn off game mode
Game
near the bottom.
mode, sorry. This one?
Yeah, but then you need to adjust the exposure. So yeah, don't worry about it.
Yep.
Just set it back to game mode. Under lit.
Well, it doesn't really change, but it
It will in a
slowly
moment.
changed.
It'll go
Yeah.
back to it. Yeah, it'll need to re-expose. Yeah, because I didn't set the values. I did it based off of the values that I saw. So obviously I was under auto exposure. So, but yeah, that's kind of the main view away from the inside, if you
Yeah.
will.
Well, it is a great view with these gut rays. So I don't have almost any experience with environments and or lighting. So that's why I want so much in order to create anything. But yeah, it really looks cool. And my biggest challenge was to come up with the ideas what to have. And you seem to have going into it without any plan and having three really different environments. And this seems really impressive to me, especially with these buildings. I don't know how much time they took, but
Not much time at all, honestly.
it looks great.
Yeah, because it's it's literally just the base and a roof, duplicated up once, and then a few extra roofs on top of it. So it's pretty simple, and then I just duplicate it to the other side.
Great. Well, this is your PCG tool. Let me check.
Yeah, so I just made a very simple, just scatterer. Very simple.
Yeah. And you
But
do have a ratio to keep as well. So yeah,
yep, ratio to
similar
keep and a
tool,
density.
but just you created it faster.
Yeah, the two PCG tools I made in about 5 minutes, both together. And the floor one is even more simple
Yeah.
because it's literally just on interior and spawn the floor tile, please. No rotations, no nothing. I'm like, I got other things to worry about than the rotation of the floor.
Well, yeah. When creating manually everything, you certainly don't need to worry about this. If I didn't had the prefab buildings, for sure I wasn't able to create anything including buildings. So
Yeah, and for this one, as you see, I turned the corners away, and that's how high I hit the actual floor or the holes. They're just
yeah,
angled away from the environment.
yeah, that's a great idea.
This environment was actually originally going to be two rooms, and then once I started putting stuff in the first one, I'm like, there's no way I'm doing two. Okay, we're cutting out one of them. So I actually spent like a good, like probably 5 minutes of my time making an area that I just deleted.
Oh, that's terrible.
That's fine. That's part of the fun.
I wanted to have a similar entrance to the temple of the 10 minutes. I wanted to have multiple of these gates, and maybe every gate to be scaled different than the other, like to have different sizes or something like this. But I didn't have any time to do this, so I just throw one gate at the front at the last 20 seconds of this, and that was my 10 end of my 10 minutes. So yeah, for sure I had bigger plans that I couldn't execute, and I understood perfectly how you could end up with deleting half of your level here.
Yeah, but then I get this, which is gets me the lighting I want, and add the lights on the buildings all are red as well. Nice, the sunset
Yeah,
lighting.
yeah, really impressive
There's,
that you
there's
have
also, I don't know if you noticed, there's lights in the trees next to the Buddha statue.
next to the statue here. Ah,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, because they're also lighting him up a bit.
yeah, yeah.
And then in the corner behind, there's a little fireplace, and I added one of the few effects inside of this blink. Yeah, I didn't have fire, but like it came with this. I'm like, okay, well, I guess we're gonna throw that in.
I did use the exact same setup with these two objects, but I don't have the light, so it doesn't really look so realistic like yours. I don't have shadows or anything. I just used this in my 30 minutes environment, these two objects. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah, one thing I learned long time ago is you could have almost nothing in an environment and have really nice lighting, and it will look really nice. So that's what I try to do,
Yeah,
basically.
for sure. For sure, it is really, really good that you managed to incorporate this into your level. I didn't do any lights. It's just the default setup, and that's everything.
Yeah, but your environments are considerably bigger and more impressive in terms of like just visual, like what's there. So
yeah, you trade time
we
from
both
one
got
thing
pluses
for
and
the other thing.
minuses.
Yeah,
Exactly. We focus on different things, and that's the fun of it.
and because I'm not really experienced with whites in Unreal, if I try to do this, it will take me more than half an hour just to manage to do anything with them.
These are very basic lights. It's a point light, and change the color intensity. That's it. And maybe attenuation radius. I had fun. Yeah, I had a blast. my chaotic self. Just like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you ever watch my side of things, you'll see the pure chaos that was going through me.
Yeah, I will for sure watch it when it comes out. I want to see how you did this environment for sure, and I bet it will be fun and chaotic because these time limits are just really, really small, and not planning ahead for sure made it very, very hard for you. And very, very stressful.
Yeah,
maybe.
the 5-10 minute ones especially.
Yep. So hopefully you like the discussion that we had about his levels, and if you want to see how he created his environments and also what he thinks about mine, head over to his channel. Again, the link is in the description, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye guys.